We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
A new year approaches, as does a new president and perhaps a new start. We'll find out what all that means on today's edition of Liberty Nation Radio. Donald Trump approaches the White House. It's not going to be long as we enter 2025. What is going to happen between now and January 20th? Well, we're very fortunate to have with us Liberty Nation senior political analyst and longtime host of this here radio show, Mr. Tim Donner. Thanks for being here, Tim. Merry Christmas to you and a Happy New Year.
You as well. And I'm not going to say a happy holidays. We need to banish that phrase.
I agree completely. Whenever anybody asks, I say, what holiday is that then?
Well, it was Donald Trump that said he's going to bring back Merry Christmas when he was first elected. And in fact, he did that, didn't he?
He did, although I have seen footage of Kamala Harris saying something along the lines of channeling Greta Thunberg, along the lines of, how dare we say Merry Christmas? And then, of course, it does the supercut to her saying,
look,
Merry Christmas.
I try to, with most people, say Merry Christmas and Happy Kwanzaa, because that covers the whole waterfront. You know, nobody can be upset that.
Absolutely. Although you are missing out on Hanukkah. So never forget that one.
Well, I usually put in Hanukkah too, but usually only when the person I'm speaking to is Jewish.
Right. Hey, I thought this was the melting pot. Surely cultural appropriation is cultural appreciation if we're all celebrating everybody's cultural artifacts. So anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand, Tim. We're fast approaching the inauguration of the once and future president, Donald J. Trump. But to me, it seems that this period, essentially while Joe Biden is winding things up, the transition's running apace, what do you think we'll see between now and January 20th when Donald Trump's inaugurated?
Well, Mark, I've never seen in all my years, and I've followed politics closely since the 1960s, and this is backed up by others who've covered politics professionally through the years. We've never seen a president-elect who was as visible, as active, and engaged as Donald Trump is. John F. Kennedy, for example, that was a seminal election, sort of the signaling of a new era. Ronald Reagan, another very significant presidency. Both of those guys, when they were elected, basically disappeared between Election Day and January 20th. But Donald Trump is acting and behaving as if he's already president. And part of that, of course, is the weakness of Joe Biden and his seeming incapacity to do much of anything except show up in an awards banquet at the Kennedy Center in Washington, or go to Africa, or make a statement and then walk back into the forest, as he famously did a couple of weeks ago. So I think Biden's weakness and his frailty and his obvious cognitive decline, compared with Trump's really his anxiety about getting going quickly, because he knows this time he for sure only has 4 years. So I've never seen anything like it. He's already held significant meetings with foreign leaders, as we know. He was threatening tariffs against both Mexico and Canada. And Justin Trudeau,
the governor of the soon-to-be
51st state, Justin Trudeau, the governor of the state of Canada, beat a hasty path to Mar-a-Lago in Florida to beg Trump not to institute the 25% tariff, which Trump is threatening. And I think it's clear that he doesn't want to lay a 25% tariff on either Canada or Mexico, but he's using it as a negotiating tool, and he's proven that he will follow through if he is forced to. So especially on the foreign stage, and of course he went to the opening of Notre Dame, the reopening of Notre Dame after that tragic fire. in Paris years ago, and Joe Biden wasn't there, and Jill Biden was, and by all accounts, and you can see it in the pictures, Trump and Dr. Jill got along famously, leading, of course, to the speculation, together with the fact that Dr. Jill wore a red pantsuit on the day she voted on election day, sparked speculation that the Bidens actually voted for Trump rather than Harris, or at least wanted to sort of tease people into thinking they did. So this is the most active president-elect we've ever seen, and it's not even close.
Yeah, Donald Trump, he has this almost unnatural energy about him, and it's something that he's actually had for all from when
He's
he
a force
first
of
came onto the
nature.
public stage. Yeah,
I mean, he's a force of nature. He doesn't look a day older than when he was running in 2016. He has the same level of energy and the same level of passion and the same absolute willingness and
I tell
plans
you,
for really shaking things up this time.
I tell you what is different. He actually has more experience of being president this time. And
Big difference.
that's going to be a valuable thing. Now, I want to come back to something you said earlier about how much of Trump's energy and actions during this time could be, well, at least part of it could be put on the shoulders of Joe Biden, essentially checking out and just doing those three things that you mentioned, the walk off into the forest. I have no idea where he was going, maybe to contact some
The
uncontacted
point is
tribes.
that he didn't
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. But I think it really puts something to the fore, and that's the idea that although the United States has had congressional shutdowns before, I mean, it's almost a semi-regular thing now.
Yes.
It's never had an executive shutdown. And I think with Joe Biden essentially wandering off into the sunset as he's politically doing, and possibly even personally, it's left a power vacuum at the executive level. And that demands that somebody step into it because you can't have a ship without a captain, right? Um, and so Donald Trump stepped into that, and people have realized this, and therefore all the forces are sort of coalescing around him. He did a great piece for the pages of libertynation.com, the sponsor of this show, that was talking about the Mar-a-Lago White House and how things are all coalescing in Florida because people go where the power is, don't they?
They do. And you're right about a power vacuum. And Donald Trump is clearly filling it. And there don't seem to be any objections from the Biden administration. Let's face it, once Joe Biden pulled out of the presidential race, the big question following it was not so much would Kamala Harris pick up the mantle, because he made sure that she would by endorsing her in the same statement that he released about him withdrawing from the race. The question was, if he can't run for another term, why is he still qualified to continue as president of the United States? And that question remains to this day. I mean, there's been a total absence of leadership of even Biden just hasn't been present or accounted for. And people rightly wonder who's really steering the ship, who's running the show, who's in charge. And given that Joe Biden still has control of the nuclear codes, this is a question of grave importance. But with Donald Trump stepping in, I think people across the world, especially foreign leaders, realize that the person whose ring they need to kiss right now is Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. And Trump willingly does it. And he's far more confident, sure of himself, on steadier footing than he was the first time that he was elected. And his cabinet, and the contrast to his cabinet in the first term, is the best reflection of that change, and the fact that Donald Trump, as we say, knows where the bodies are buried this time.
We'll be continuing this exhumation after this short break. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.